These are four people, all of whom I know, and all of whom have really earned my respect. I really do appreciate and understand what they're doing and what they're trying to do. So let me start with Terry Smith. I first met Terry about 7 years ago when she came to intern for a short period on our farm. And right after that, Terry started farming on her own family land south of Williams Lake in the Knife Creek area. It's a beautiful 80-acre piece of meadow on which her family had built an off-grid log home. And now Terry has about 6 years of market gardening under her belt, and she's selling marketing through a 50-member CSA program. The CSA, if you don't know, is like a food guild where people prepay for the season, and then every week they get delivered a basket of produce. And she also sells at farmers markets and at the food co-op, the Growers Food Co-op in Williams Lake, of which Terry is the president. Challenges at a farming operation include the fact that the land is subject to frost almost every month of the year, but nevertheless, Terry is showing that she can work around that one. Our next panelist is Melanie Kudinski. And Melanie moved to Quesnel about 6 years ago with her family, her husband Sean, and 2 young daughters, with the goal that they wanted to try and do something in agriculture. They live in the Baker Creek area, which is about 40 minutes west of Quesnel, and they were interested in possibly raising turkeys. So they made application early for turkey quota, and were really surprised when they were granted quota. But with that kind of use it or lose it kind of pressure on them, they were kind of forced to jump headfirst into this project. And since then, they have been providing or certified organic turkey to the communities of the North Caribou and beyond. Ag Hort was born and raised in Quesnel. He now, with his partner Ashton, are farming in the area right between Vernon and Armstrong in there, and their farm is called Roots Up Vegetable Farm, and it's located on some beautiful leased land on another certified organic farm. And in that area, of course, there's a plethora of farmers markets, and so they sell at 3 different farmers markets in that area. And our fourth panelist is Brendan Grant. And again, I met Brendan over a decade ago when he came and interned at our farm for a season. And right away, we knew we had a winner. Brendan and his wife Marcel own and operate Sleepy G Farm, which is outside of Thunder Bay in Ontario. Again, challenging climate there, but they are producing for 100-member CSA. They sell at farmers markets, they sell at restaurants and at retail. They also have a mixed farming operation with sheep, beef, and eggs, egg production. And I'm going to let the 4 of them begin, maybe in that order. Terry, if you will start first then, and we'll give you a chance to give a little bit of a description of your operation, and then your vision of what success will look like for you.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. So Rob did a good job there. I lived in a camper van for 5 months in summer 2008 and traveled to a few different farms around BC. My plan was to do 5 farms in that amount of time, but I fell in love with the second farm I went to. If anyone was in the room upstairs where they showed Alderley Farm, I apprenticed there on Vancouver Island, which was amazing, but also was probably not the best idea for coming to the Caribou because they lived in a community where everyone could drive to the farm and pick up, whereas I live an hour outside of Williams Lake. They also had an amazing growing climate, and people would pay $9 a pound for peas, which they won't do in Williams Lake. I came up to Rob and Kathy's place, and I actually wish I had spent longer with them because that was much more specific to what I do and where I live. So I just spent a few weeks with them, but that was great to see. And they're the biggest producers in Williams Lake. They did the box a week there. And my first year, we were the second biggest producers after Rob and Kathy in Williams Lake. So it was a place where it's really started to open up for farmers. But at the same time, that's not necessarily a good thing because it means that people aren't really looking for the food. Like, it's changed a lot in the last 5 years, but at the time, everyone thought it was crazy. No one eats vegetables in the Caribou was the general idea. So I got there fall 2008, as I said. It was my family's land. They'd been renting it out for 16 years because they moved in with my grandma. It was 40 acres of meadow, 40 acres of forest. We went out with a weed eater and a rototiller and tilled up half an acre that fall by hand. I mostly just didn't know what I was getting into. And it was all really exciting and really fun and really hard. My second year, started accepting woofers. If no one knows, that's Worldwide Workers on Organic Farms and a few other organizations as well. So now I've had over 50 people from all around the world, and that's been a huge help because as a small farm and growing, you need to be able to have that help, and I can't afford to pay anyone yet. But yeah, I started the CSA. We started really small with like 10 people that were just kind of friends and family, and grew to 25 the first summer. And now I've just been kind of holding at around 50. I'm going to expand more this year. We've worked on starting a new farmers market in Williams Lake, and then also Caribou Growers started in that time. Marketing has been one of the things that's taken a lot of time, and it's definitely going well. The CSA, or box a week, is my main source of income. It's a great system because you know at the start of the season what you need to grow, and you have a place for all that food to go, because farmers markets, especially in Williams Lake, can be unreliable. My idea of success is to be sustainable in every way possible, to continue to be environmentally sustainable, to be physically sustainable because it's exhausting, it's hard work, and I need to be able to grow the farm in such a way that I don't wreck my body. And it needs to be financially sustainable as well. One of the things right now is why I've had this opportunity is because it is my parents' land. So right now I've been farming there in exchange for cell grazing their cattle in the summer. So, which is also, you know, as much as I love that and it's part of the whole sustainable farm thing, it means that every day I'm out there moving cattle with electric fence as well as growing a garden, which at this point is about 1.5 acres. And then the other thing for me for success is to always enjoy what I'm doing, have it be something that every day still that I wake up and want to do this. So.
Rob did a really good job. Mic's not on? Okay. Yeah, Rob did a good job of explaining kind of how we got into farming. We actually kind of moved up here, and like a few people I kind of met today were interested in farming, and we came to the Ag Hort in that year. I think it was 2008, and we're kind of asking around about what needs to come to the Caribou, and people kind of were saying turkeys were, there wasn't anybody really growing turkeys, so we thought, yeah, we'd apply for quota, and we did, and then we got it. And we applied for a loan. Community Futures was here like they were this year, and they had a lot of stuff out on starting up farms and helping with business plans, and they were really helpful for us and continue to be with supporting us with feed and stuff like that, which has made it really possible for us. And by kind of getting into farming at a bigger scale, it's made it easier to go organic and make it kind of viable for everybody because we buy in bulk, so that was really kind of what made it happen for us. I would say our vision would be to start being able to do more for ourselves on our farm. Like, we'd like to be able to use, like, one day to slaughter on our facility would be great. It would cut down a lot of costs, and there are things in the community that are trying to make that happen. And we'd like to be able to kind of utilize more of the turkey that we don't right now, like maybe making fertilizers with like the blood and the bones and things like that. And right now we're trying to move into kind of a higher profit bracket because by going so big, it's more convenient to sell it at like a lower price but way less profitable. So now that kind of after jumping in and like the dust is settling, we're realizing we really need to focus on kind of maybe starting up like the weekly box like these guys are kind of doing, and it makes it kind of product all year round, and having a year-round income will make it a lot easier on us. And I'm going to just pass that one on now.
Check, Yeah, hi. So my name's Ian, and yeah, I'm from here, but moved south around a bit and found myself in Chase after finishing university on a, not a certified organic, but we definitely tried to do our best, cooperatively run farm. So that was a great place for me to get some skills, understand a bit about growing plants, and yeah, get a sense of what farming was, because I hadn't had too much experience with it other than my grandpa's retirement ranching adventures. So yeah, from there, I really fell in love with farming and with growing vegetables and just the connection to the seasons and really feeling alive versus kind of the university life and other things I've done previously. So yeah, I wanted to pursue that. So I went to Victoria after a little while and worked on a farm down there. And I worked with a really interesting group there, Saanich Organics. They have like a marketing cooperative, 3 small farms. Go to farmers markets together, run a CSA together, and sell to restaurants together. And that seems like a really good model. I'm not sure if anybody else is doing that, but it seems to work well for them. So it was nice to see that. And then, yeah, so now we just did I just did my 5th year of growing, and we started our own vegetable farm. We didn't have money to buy land, so we're just leasing. It's a little bit out of town. It's kind of in the Salmon River Valley, south of town. So compared to the other farms in the area, we have about 3 weeks shorter growing season, so it's a bit of a challenge for us at times. But it's been a good year for us so far. We grow intensively. We just grow vegetables. Grow on about beds that are about 3 feet by 15 feet, and just try to have a standard bed and keep everything tight. And I think so our vision is to continue with that, to keep our costs low, to maintain. Our farm is really it's not very capital intensive. We didn't spend a whole bunch of money. Of course, there were costs, but we don't own a tractor. We just have a small secondhand rototiller. Well, it's an 8-horse, but so the investments are pretty small, and we really focus on quality, really trying to reach the people who are looking for those really high quality vegetables. Fortunately, we are certified organic as well, so that does help us in the markets. Like Rob mentioned, we sell at 3 farmers markets. Well, kind of from mid-July on we did, and that's a lot of work because it means 3 harvest days, but for us it's kind of a way to get some income. So we're going to continue with the 3 again next year. We're going to tweak it a little bit, go into the bigger city of Vernon rather than Salmon River, and I think, yeah, for our vision, just continue on with what we're doing, but continue to grow intensively, grow a little bit more land, and yeah.
Anyone home? There we are. Okay. My name's Brendan, and I'm really glad to be here. It's coming back to the Caribou for me is somewhat of a homecoming. As Rob said, I spent a season working at Mackey Creek Farm. I think that was in 2004, maybe. I started farming in 2002. I started working on farms, and I guess my farming career really began at that point. It was one of those things where I was living in my van and looking for something, a work that I would feel good in, something that I like the physicality of farming. I like the problem solving. I like the fact that I can feel good about what I do. So about 12 years ago, I decided this is what I'm going to do. And of course, there's many steps to get to where you're going. So today, after spending about 3 or 4 years in BC, kind of getting to know the trade a little bit and having a wonderful experience here in the Caribou, I returned to Ontario, where I'm from, and my wife and I bought an old farm, which had been sitting idle for probably 30 years. And today, that farm's now Sleepy G Farm, and we're a mixed farm, a modern mixed farm that's founded on the traditional model of agriculture. And the 2 keywords there, interestingly enough, are both modern and traditional. We are modern in that, the context in which we're farming today is a lot different than those that came before us. We have access to information via the internet. We have excellent technologies with regard to season extension and better quality tools. In the plant breeding world, we have access to varieties of seeds that make open doors for us, because I grow in zone 2B, and that's a pretty marginal zone, but we can do it all. Our farm, we have 100 layer hens, and that in Ontario is our legal maximum without owning quota. We have a small beef herd. We have a flock of registered purebred sheep, and we run a 100-member CSA. The CSA for our farm is the cornerstone. It really was the goal from day one. The animals were really pieces of the puzzle that are filling in the fertility gap primarily, but also has been a way for us to keep our presence throughout the non-vegetable harvesting part of the year, which is approximately 200 days long. My vision for our farm, and for all farms really, because undeniably we are in the midst of what is a real renaissance in agriculture, and it's a real social movement that we're all being a part of here. The local food movement is, I'd like to say that it's a train that at this point has gained enough momentum that it's unstoppable. Having said that, my vision is to see small farming and small farms become the next agricultural revolution. I think that somewhere along the line, starting roughly around 1960, coming out of the post-World War II era, we went down a road in agriculture that has ultimately commodified the food that we eat and has industrialized our food system. And I think it's time now for us to start to reclaim some of our heritage and put the culture back into agriculture. And that means regionalizing our food system. And so, this branding campaign that we just heard about, branding the North Cariboo farming country and highlighting all the production here, that is regionalizing our food system, and it's definitely the step in the right direction. Success for me and on our farm is quite simple. We want to be financially successful and viable. And as much as I love farming, I want to retire one day. And I want to retire with financial security. Something that we can, I used to say that I'm on the Freedom 85 plan, but that's not true. I do want to retire with some financial security, and I don't want to have to sell the farm to make that happen. And so in order to do that, we need to make smart choices in our business, and we need to not undercut ourselves with our pricing, and we need to be good ambassadors of farming. And something I heard on the radio recently is that the average wage in Canada is $47,000 a year. That's the average. While many people make less than that, many people make more than that. And my goal, my personal vision of success, is for myself and for my wife to take that wage, an average wage, doing what I consider to be very unaverage work. The level of exposure to both financial and physical risk in the career of farming is an exceptional amount of risk. The amount of hours we put into it, we don't work our 37.25-hour weeks, we work 95, 100-hour work weeks. And that's great, we love it, we wouldn't do it, we wouldn't have it any other way. But darn it, we at least not have an average income for our above average efforts.
And on that note, so now I'm going to ask the four of them to tell us, to share with us, the one or two quintessential things that they did that gave them a leg up on their journey to this success. Okay, Terry?
Hello. All right. So I think at least one person mentioned Community Futures. That's something I wish I had mentioned at the beginning. That was a huge start, was Community Futures in Williams Lake. After the first year, we went through them for the business plan and for a small loan just to kind of get things started. Things like a water tank and a tiller. And yeah, because the first one didn't last after that, tilling up the hayfield. The other thing is that after being at Alderley Farm, it was a biodynamic farm, which people may or may not know what biodynamics means. Just to go into it briefly, it's kind of three big things. One of them is you're trying to create a whole farm system. So ideally, you may never reach the goal, but you're trying to have only 10% of your inputs come from off the farm. So it's having a combination of animals and vegetables so that you have that manure. That's something that the industrial agriculture model wrecked, where it took all the animals away from all the vegetables, then you have a toxic waste removal problem and a lack of fertilizer problem. So there's that side to it that's been really important for our farm. As well, there are 7 homeopathic preparations that kind of help with the fact that you're always selling nutrients off the farm. They're a little odd and esoteric, I'm not going to go into it, but it's also really fun and it freaks out the woofers when you get them up, but this isn't working. Oh, at like 4 in the morning to stir something by hand for an hour and then you spray it all over the fields. The other thing is that there's the planting calendar that we follow. We plant by the moon and we've kind of seen this to be something that has made or not, made things work or not. Sometimes we've lost crops. If nothing else, it sets out your schedule so you don't have to think about it. For the other side of it too is that we need all the help we can get. We had, like our first year here, there were 35 days between frosts. And that's, yeah, it's a hard place to grow. And then one of the other really important things has been the box a week. That's an excellent way, I mentioned that earlier, because you know where the food's going and you have that commitment to your customers, they have that commitment to you. And then the last thing would be woofers. That's been an excellent experience all around. It's a really neat thing to get other people involved. The people that have been the best helpers are people that are interested in doing it themselves. And you can also get some neat ideas, fresh eyes, you see the place new again. So, yeah, that's probably enough.
For us, I'd say things like, well, with going big kind of straight off the bat, I don't know if I'd recommend it, but for us it kind of had a few benefits because we knew what we needed to be able to do in the end. So when we kind of bought a building to house our turkeys, we were able to go with what we're going to need at the end to fit all of our turkeys, not buy like a small building and then later on want to get bigger and make a bigger building. So that made it quite really good for us. And I'd say some of the other things we did right, we weren't kind of afraid to ask friends and family for help. When building the building, we had a lot of neighbors come out and help us out. Like neighbors lend us transits to make sure the building was in order, and everyone, like farmers are really will come together to help you to kind of in your learning process. So I'd say don't be kind of scared to ask farmers. My mom came out and watched the kids so we could really get things going by the timelines we needed them done. One of our best investments, I would say, was our automated watering system because it takes a lot of time. Turkeys drink a lot of water in the numbers that we've got, and it would just be spending all day just filling up water. And so feeders are not bad because there's huge feeders, so they can just fill them up. But watering was definitely, the automated watering system was pretty good. And then buying in bulk and just really doing the research kind of helped us out and the community. That's it for me.
Check, check. Okay, so yeah, I guess at this point, Rob asked me to talk about a group that I am involved with, because it does kind of connect. Like Melanie was just mentioning, the connections between farmers are really important to helping new farmers come up and understand what's going on and anything from how to put up a building to how to attend a farmer's market or tax advice. So, although I've got some mixed reviews on that. The organization is called the Young Agrarians, and it's a group, it's got a provincial organization with a coordinator who's in Vancouver, and she helps our regional organization in Armstrong with kind of gives us some support. So in the local area, the Young Agrarians, we've been together for about a year now, and we get together, we have potlucks together, just as sort of social events to kind of make sure we're all kind of know who each other are and sort of the issues we're having or the successes we're having. We've also done some tours of local farms. So we've done tours of young farms, and we've also done tours of experienced farms. There was a tour at Crano Gales, which got featured this morning. And some really experienced, I think Wildlife Farm fellow was up here a few years ago maybe. We toured his land as well. And yeah, so those farm tours are great to see how other people are doing things. And then, yeah, we've got an email list so we can talk with each other easily. And also we can partner with other food organizations. So on a local level, that's really great. And then on the province-wide level, Young Agrarians has a really good website, youngagrarians.org. And you can go on there, there's a resource map. You can put your own resources on there to share them or look up what other people have shared. Sarah Dent, your coordinator, has organized mixers, so kind of mini conferences for young farmers to get people together in regions. So far they've happened in the Okanagan, the Kootenays, and I think this year they're going to be on the island as well, so there's definitely opportunities for things to happen up here. It's a really good where you can have a regional hub and then get support from the nonprofit in the bigger city. So yeah, there's a land access guide as well to help people kind of figure out how to find land, and yeah, it's been for us a really helpful organization to be involved with. So I'd encourage anybody who's interested either to come talk to me or take a look at the website or get in touch with Sarah Dent in Vancouver.
Okay, the positive steps that we've taken towards realizing our vision, and just to be clear, we haven't quite realized our vision. My notice of assessment last year said I made $4,000. And so it's definitely, we're on the right way, but we're not quite there. If I were to summarize our success so far, our achievements, if I were to summarize it with one word, it would be that we've been very calculated. You know, we've been calculated and measured in our approach to starting a farm. Starting a farm sounds like a great idea. It sounds like a beautiful life. Both of those things are true. But it can also be a train wreck. It can also be not just a dream, but a nightmare. Right? Because, you know, there's an awful lot of stress and there's an awful lot of yourself and your money that will be invested into trying to realize that dream. So my wife and I have been very measured and calculated in our approach. And that started with, first of all, training. You know, we didn't just buy a piece of land and say, we're going to be farmers. We worked on several farms before even contemplating taking on a mortgage. And by working on different farms, it gave us an excellent example to emulate. And for us, that example was with Rob and Kathy at Mac Creek. Running a CSA, you know, after leaving my season with them, I had a really good idea in my head of what it would look like and, you know, how it should be done, you know, done well. And so, you know, getting a job or doing anything in life it's really all about, you know, figuring out who's doing it. You know, maybe you want to be a welder. Well, go through the phone book, figure out who's welding. Do some research, figure out who's welding the best, and then go learn from them. And that's kind of our approach. When we did buy the farm, we made a 5-year business plan with very specific revenue targets. You know, it's great to say that we're going to put in a bunch of beets and lettuce and whatnot, but you know, we need to know how many dollars that's going to amount to at the end of the season when you're tired and broken and ready for a rest. And will that get you through the winter? So we made a 5-year business plan with specific revenue targets, and we saw it through. We saw it through. We actually accomplished our 5-year business plan in 4 years, putting us 1 year ahead. And kind of having to rethink things for the next, you know, the next stage of the game. And one thing that we were very conscious of is not getting sidetracked. So we made a plan and we stuck to the plan. We didn't get sidetracked into business ventures or other farming aspects that were outside of our vision. You know, it may be a neat branch of the road, but if it's not bringing you to where you're going, it's nothing more than a diversion from realizing your vision. The thing with farming is that, you know, ideas that maybe aren't so well founded, you know, they burn up a lot of money and a lot of your mental energy. And so we need to save our money and our energy for accomplishing what we're trying to do. The other thing that we didn't get sidetracked with, and this has just been a personal choice, is that we've delayed having a family. So, you know, I think now we're looking maybe more closely at that, but it's something that we, it's hard enough to get stuff done when it's just us. We took a realistic and calculated approach to yearly expansion. It's good to start small. Sometimes you have to start bigger than you want. But in our case, we started small, and we used the CSA as the perfect way to grow our business. We started with 20 shares, then 40, then 60, then 80. And each year, so long as you do a good job, people talk. Sometimes they talk on Facebook. I'm not on, so I wouldn't know. But I understand that, word of mouth works, and it's a great way. For us, the CSA has been a fabulous way to grow our business at the rate that we want it to grow. You don't want to get too popular or too big too quick, and then have the demand eclipse the supply, because then you feel like a big jerk because everyone's talking about you and you don't got nothing to give them. So we were very calculated in our approach to expansion. And something I heard last year was at a farming conference in the Midwest, down in Wisconsin, and someone said there, until you decide how big you want to be, you'll never be big enough. And so for me, that was a really important thing, because we needed to make a decision. How big do we want to get, and what is our financial target? And then that is the end game, not just this constant expansion, because that in itself is not sustainable. Another thing, we've been very strategic in, this panel is about capacity building, and that's what, I see this in the Caribou region, I see it in our home region in Thunder Bay, that the demand for this local product currently, is greater than the supply, and that's great. But, those of us that are on the ground now doing the work, we need to scale up, and those that are talking about farming and, have the idea in their head, they need to lay their chips on the table and make it happen. And so capacity building is a really strategic part of building any business, especially a farm business. Because farm businesses can fail because they're tough and the margins are slim. So in our case, we were very strategic with our purchasing of equipment that would, what $3,000 is going to get the biggest bang for a buck? For us, I could talk about this on a personal level if people care to know those equipment purchases, but as much as I want a brand new tractor, I still operate NT tractors. But I have really good equipment for doing other things that increase our capacity to produce more vegetables and make more money. So financial strategy with equipment purchases. And finally, we conduct our farm business with professionalism, and we try to be a good ambassador for the profession of farming. Farming is not, some bumpkins out there throwing some beef or some vegetables. We are professional. This is a professional occupation, and we need to conduct ourselves that way, and to project that image and do the very best we can, because there's so many people out there today, especially, who are willing to pay a premium price for a high quality product. And it's the onus is incumbent on us as farmers to provide them and to not let down on their expectation. So professionalism is key.
So that everyone has a chance for a question and answer afterwards. So now, I'm going to ask Terry, what are the things... Okay, I'm going to ask Terry, what are the things that you wish you had never done?
Can everyone hear me? Okay. Well, one of the things is that because when we started, we were very excited, and we'd just come from working on farms that had been going a lot longer. So we did start to grow too fast. So we kind of went for, rather than like building slowly and maintaining it, we started out running. We thought we could do like 10 years worth of work in one. And that meant that we were just operating a crisis management to crisis management rather than like building slowly and maintaining. And what you were talking about, professionalism, is really important. And when you're just constantly trying to deal with all of these things falling apart, you can't be that professional. And I did have a farming background. I came from a grass-fed cattle ranch. The vegetables were something completely foreign to me until I started. So that was something that was a big learning curve. One of the other things I wished was that I had learned more about business beforehand, because learning that side of it and like spending the time in the office was a hard thing for me. I started out with a literature degree and a studio art diploma, and then became a farmer. And just having to learn that as I was going was much harder than if I had got that training ahead of time. So that's something that's really important, is to keep good records and keep your receipts and things like that. That was a good thing to learn too. One of the other things was with equipment. We've always stayed small. I have a lot of family close by who ranch, so there's been times when I needed a tractor or a backhoe and I borrow that. I have a BCS walk-behind tractor, which has attachments for it too. I can keep on growing that. That was a mistake though at the beginning. We tried to go with a second-hand one that was supposed to be in mint condition. It was out of Vancouver, which meant that every time it broke down, which was 4 times in 2 years, it was a trip to the coast to get it worked on. Eventually, I traded it in for a brand new one, which has a lifetime warranty, and that's just, that was one of those learning things where like, yeah, you're saving the money, in the end you're not. Equipment is something that you want to build slowly too, because if you just went out and bought a tractor and you're not there, you're not making enough money, then you have debt and you don't have the revenue for it. So just kind of understanding your scale and what that means for machinery, because you do also need the machinery. And then the last thing that I wish I'd done differently is understanding my market a little better. Every town, every community has its own ways that work best. Quesnel has an amazing farmers market. Williams Lake is a difficult place. It's not that far away. It's sometimes hard to know why, but I've spent a lot of time on too many boards, trying to be out there, figuring it out, and too much time away from the farm. So now what I've really learned is that the CSA is kind of what works best for me and for my community, and so it's kind of backing off, not being quite so public. I think all of that has been a really good thing because it's gotten the farm out there in front of people, but at the same time it's been hard to be so involved in the community and so involved with the city. Like, volunteer burnout is really tough, and when you're also trying to manage a business that requires you to be working like 90 hours a week at home and then you have to drive an hour to town a couple times a week, those kinds of things are things you should learn. So those are my big things.
I guess things where I would have done things differently. Well, I guess going big fast has its pros and its cons. I'd say kind of getting into the turf board and all the boards and stuff like that isn't my favorite part that farming has brought to me. And so I would say I do like the idea of kind of growing small and growing with it. I wouldn't say jump into it, even though it's worked really well. We've been really lucky. It's worked really well. We've had great community support, and like you was kind of saying, like our first year we did big numbers, and our first batch actually didn't turn out that great. All our turkeys were really small, and we were just like, oh my gosh, this is like everything's out of the line right now. And the community once again was really good, really forgiving. Everyone was really understanding, and once we called the next year, everyone wanted another one, or was really happy with us, and I've been really supportive. So it's made it really good for us. So I would say we built a brooding house inside of our building. That was probably a bit of a mistake because every year we have big heavy walls that we have to carry around and set it all up and take it all down. But all around, I'd say getting into organic farming in Quesnel has been really good, and I'm happy to be part of the farming community.
I think for us, we definitely made some mistakes. Overall, I think it was our first year and it was a success. We feel we got a lot of support from the community and it felt really good. One of the things we kind of struggled with is both of our parents, Ashton and I's parents, they all kind of worked for other people and didn't really run their own businesses, so we weren't really exposed to business skills and didn't have a very good understanding about that. And we didn't do too much to train ourselves ahead of time on that. So yeah, I'm kind of wishing we would have kind of gone to see a bookkeeper ahead of time and learn how to set up books and that sort of thing. Because now we got a stack of receipts and I'm kind of trying to figure it all out. And yeah, so record keeping is the big kind of mistake for us. I did get a system, and it meant that we got the records that we needed for our certification. The system was writing everything on an envelope and never throwing away an envelope. So that, at least I can collect all the envelopes and have things written. But for next year, I think we're going to have some forms filled out with places to put specific information so that we know ahead of time what we want to record, and so that we have a clear understanding of what we need to record for each phase of the planting and the harvesting and all that. So So then we can put that into some spreadsheets at the end of the year and hopefully make some good decisions next year based on all the information that we've learned. Because my goal for this farm was to have a really well-managed farm that we really understood what we were doing. It was our first year, so we got room to move and room to grow. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, so mistakes along the way. After leaving the Caribou, I was sure that I wanted to incorporate draft animal power into whatever farm I would one day own, and so that was a really, I think, a positive step for us, is to make that decision. But I sat on the fence for quite a while about, was that going to be horses, or would that maybe be oxen? Working cattle, that was something that came to me soon after I left the Caribou. And so I sat on the fence between, should I buy some horse, should I buy oxen, what do I do? And one day I realized that actually I like bovines more than I like equines, so that decision became pretty clear. But not before having wasted probably 2.5, 3 years of sitting on that fence. And during that time, I was getting field work done custom by the local farmer or whose arm I could twist at the right time of the year to come over and do the work for me. Relying on custom operators in my situation, because there's not a lot of really active farms close to me, it was very difficult and it proved to be very unreliable. And it really came to a head where I had to overnight basically buy all my own my hay equipment and start taking on another enterprise with my farm, which I wasn't quite ready to do or really even willing. And so, had I were to do it again, I would have bought a tractor. Today we have a team of oxen that we use on the farm, and I use them as much as I can. But I also have 2 tractors that I call upon for certain tasks. And were I to do it again, I would have bought a tractor right away, day one, and I would have bought a tractor with a loader even, because a loader, this is life changing. It really is. But a loader is life changing. Let's face it, when you're building your farm, you're bringing a lot of materials onto the farm, whether that's the back of your truck, strapped to the roof of your Jetta, on a flat deck trailer, and a lot of times that stuff's too heavy to lift, so how do you get it off, right? So, loader tractor was big for me. Like many young people getting into farming, the land that is available and affordable is land that has been abused for longer than we care to speak about. And so, one of my biggest challenges and my ongoing challenge is that trying to overcome a nutrient deficiency and fields that need major rehabilitation. And so I think that I've underestimated early on how much work it would take to rehabilitate that land. And one of the rehabilitation efforts that I deal with, and I'm sure many people here deal with, is eradicating quackgrass. Which, I've made major mistakes with that, but I also have made some headway. I've got a system. And finally, in the very beginning, and I'm the kind of person who, there's always someone who knows more than I do. There's always someone who has a better opinion or a more informed opinion, and I always want to solicit that and kind of glean whatever I can from whatever, wisdom is around me. And so in the very early part, I would solicit advice about, my organic farming approach from the quote-unquote old-timers. But what I soon realized was that the old-timers didn't actually know a lot about organic agriculture. And, if I were to put a number to it, let's say, my 85-year-old neighbor, he grew up in a time when he took over the farm from his dad when he was around 30 years old, around 1960. And the organic method that we're also, passionate about, that was already lost. And so a lot of the old-timers actually don't have the knowledge that we seek as young farmers. And finally, I've come to just trust my own vision. I know best what I'm trying to do and what the picture of the puzzle that is my farm. I know what those puzzle pieces look like and how they connect. And so long as we've been calculated and thoughtful in our approach to planning the farm, executing the farm, I think that we all would be better off to just trust our own instinct.